family. God bless you. Wherever you are tuning in across the world, you're viewing and listening to another exciting show of Senior Talk with Clara Hubbard, your resource and information show for people getting better with age. Let me tell you, we are in the month of Heart Health Awareness Month, a very, very, very critical month in our world, let me tell you. And I could not be more ecstatic to have two people joining us today. First of all, as I tell people, this heart disease is a silent killer. And for some people, there are no warnings. That's why it's called a silent killer. But what we're here to do today is we got a beautiful ambassador joining us, Miss Antonia Wright. Let me tell you, she is boots on the ground. What a phenomenal story she's going to share with us today. And then we have Tim Harms of the American Heart Association in Indianapolis. Very, very good friend of Senior Talk. We're learning a lot more. We're getting more in depth about conversations to come. But we just want to bring this format to our community at large. So don't forget, those who are watching, if you are a new subscriber to Senior Talk on YouTube, we're still in the pandemic. You will get a Senior Talk media mask. I will send one to you, to all of our new subscribers. Thank you also to those who are tuning in from the Foster Grandparents of Chicago, the Indiana Department of Minority Health, and many, many, many others. We love you and thank you for making us a part of your day. So as I mentioned, joining us today is Mr. Tim Harms. He is he's busy. He has a title, Senior Director of Communications for the American Heart Association, Indianapolis. And we want to welcome you to Senior Talk. How are you this beautiful day, Tim?
I'm doing great, Clara. Thanks so much for having us on. It's really exciting to be with you today.
Absolutely. And then if you would please introduce our esteemed co-host today.
Yeah, so excited to have Antonia Wright join us. I met Antonia probably 5 or 6 years ago. We have a program called Real People, Real Change, and the name says it all. We wanted to find real people, not supermodels, not anybody else, real people who made real changes. You know, we talk so much about doing this or that to improve your health. You know, people that really did it, the simple, small steps, and significantly impacted their life. And so Antonia has been a Real People, Real Change ambassador for us since about 2016. And she's also currently part of our advocacy committee, working with our government relations director on various policies to improve health.
So Antonia, if you would be so kind, introduce yourself. And if we could, Tim, let's start with her miraculous story, because you shared a little bit, but I want to know about the ambassador. I heard you change some of your daily habits to increase a better quality of life. So share what you would like at this time.
Hi, my name is Antonia Wright. I have 4 adult children and like 16 grandchildren. So my story starts with I was at work one day and I felt something that felt like indigestion. It went away, but a few hours later it came back. And then one day it came and it didn't go away. So I went to the doctor and he sent me to see a cardiologist. Cardiologist ran tests, and that's when he told me that I had 6 blocked coronary arteries. They could only open 5. So after that, I went to cardiac rehab, which is very important, and learned that one of the things to improve my health was diet and weight loss and exercise. So I started walking for exercise, and my diet at that time, I was very much overweight. I lost 35 pounds, and I wanted to do something to help other people who experience the same thing, not only for myself, but for my children and my grandchildren, so they could also learn and not fall into the same unhealthy habits that I had fallen into.
So you had the symptoms and then they came back. And then you went to a cardiologist.
Correct.
What was the light bulb for you that said, I need to make changes immediately? Because to lose 30 pounds, I mean, it takes people a long time. And, you know, we may hear something and just keep moving. But what was that light bulb for you that made you say, hey, I'm going to become what I know I can be?
It was the pain that did not go away.
Mm-hmm.
Because when it first started, it would come maybe last for a half an hour or so, and it would go away. But then one day I woke up, the pain was there, and it didn't go away.
Mm. So, how soon after you took charge of your health, you said you lost weight, you made some diet changes. Was that a unified thing in the home? I mean, you had to be a visionary for your family members, but what was your method, if you would share?
Well, my diet consisted of protein
Mm-hmm.
and either reduced carbs or no carbs. So that was the key to it for me. And also, I stopped drinking soda pop.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would go through a 12 pack of Pepsis in a couple of days. So I cut out sodas, um, and I cut out uh, most carbs.
Wow. Well, whew, let me say, I'm on this potato thing. I know Lent is here, and I was determined to give up potatoes, any form. Oh my goodness, that's my one thing. I mean, I don't drink soda a lot, but okay, let's talk about that's a whole nother show. I have to bring you back for that one because I know that sacrifice. You would think you're gonna the sacrifice. You look. We are people that like to eat with our eyes. So you know, and then we like to taste our food. So what was that like for you making that change in your home? Did your family join you?
Well, at the time, in the home, it was just me and my husband. However, my daughter at the time, she made a change also to her
Good,
diet.
good.
So it wasn't easy, but it wasn't as hard as you think,
Okay.
because I would fill up on salads, vegetables,
Mhm.
to kind of replace the carbs.
Yeah, well, talk to me directly. That'll be off the camera because I'm a potato fanatic. I can do, anyway, that's my thing. So, Tim Harms, you represent one of the most popular and most important organizations in our country, American Heart Association. We know that this is American Heart Month. We definitely support Go Red for Women.
Yes, very nice.
Thank you. But tell us, what does your job entail? And then I want you to follow up with what the term or what real people, real change, what does that department do in your organization?
Well, my job is communications director, so I'm part of what I would say our mission really to educate the public. When you think about the American Heart Association, we've been around almost 100 years. We were founded in 1924, so coming very quickly up on our 100th anniversary. With two primary missions. A lot of people know us as a research organization. We fund a lot of research. In fact, second only to the federal government in the amount of dollars spent on research every year for heart and cardiovascular disease and stroke. And then the other component is education, and that's where people like Antonia come into play. Is the fact that we love to share those real stories of success, whether it be people surviving heart attacks, making lifestyle changes just to prevent heart attacks and strokes. Those are the types of things that we're doing. Our mission, simply put, is to help people live longer, healthier lives. And it's interesting because up until about 5 or 6 years ago, when you think about a tagline or a mission statement, our mission statement was helping people live longer, lives free of cardiovascular disease, heart disease. And we changed that. We took that away and we just said, we want to help people live longer, healthier lives, because, the body is a system. So when something affects one part, it affects the other. And so there's so many things that have an impact on heart disease. and well-being that we want to take a broader approach to health, and help people be their best.
Yes. Here's the thing, and I keep telling everyone, we are very close to almost being 1 year into this pandemic that we're living through. And what we have to recognize as a community, as a country, as individuals, that our top disparities are still in place. So you're dealing with one situation and everything. Now I'm really finding out, and correct me if you know more about it, Tim, is that a lot of our other diseases are tied to your heart health. I'm hearing about dementia. I'm hearing about Alzheimer's, and I'm thinking, wow. So the heart is actually the umbrella.
Very much so, yeah, and that's why one of those reasons that we kind of have taken a broader approach, and we've focused in the last few years specifically some research dollars towards dementia as an example, because we know that when you start seeing those things, it is kind of tied back to heart health and cardiovascular, that whole system of pumping blood to all the different organs and things that go on. Our sister organization, and it's really under our umbrella too, is the American Stroke Association, and
Yes.
has been for many years.
Yes.
And that very much deals with brain health. And, the most strokes are because of blood clots. So again, the circulatory system going to the brain, the blood clot going to the brain. And so it's very much still related to the heart, even though that's affecting the brain and other organs. We've partnered in the last few years with the American Diabetes Association because, again, diabetes, a leading risk factor for heart disease and stroke. So, if you have diabetes, and we're seeing in today's world just the way people's lifestyles with diet, and then the lack of exercise, lack of movement, the more sedentary lifestyles that a lot of people have, and the fast food types diets, we're seeing more people who are obese, and therefore more people who have diabetes, and it is leading to more people having heart disease. And so those are things that we want to address, all those things: diabetes, cholesterol, blood pressure. They're all just huge risk factors for heart disease.
Absolutely. And one thing that I'm focusing on specifically is for April being Minority Health Month, is to take the importance of heart disease and the treatment and preventive measures and how it affects everything else. We want to push that more into our disparities, how they correlate. But let's do this. We want to take a quick commercial break. This video is courtesy of NBC Now. I will say this publicly: Senior Talk does not own the rights to this video, but I thought it was important to share. Everyone stay tuned. You want to check this out.
Shaq, you're one of the biggest stars. Shaq, you're one of the biggest stars in the world. You're a four-time champion. Dr. O'Feely, you're one of the top cardiologists in the world. What brings this partnership together?
Well, I met Dr. O'Feely a couple months ago, and she gave me some information that I had no idea what was going on. 5.5 million Americans are affected by heart failure every year, but it particularly hits the African American community very hard. And, she said that she wanted me to help get the word out.
How does heart health, how does it manifest differently maybe in African Americans as opposed to other races?
We have a significant disparity. The evidence out there from clinical studies that African Americans do have a higher risk in terms of getting the disease, but also, more importantly, when they have the disease, problem with awareness as well as access to treatment. But we also know there are other differences in terms of what's happening with the blood vessels. How are you reacting? Some people know with a family history, maybe they're more predisposed to high blood pressure or diabetes. So all of that is significant interplay. The big message is to say to people, heart disease is still the #1 killer of everyone.
I think it's fair to say that most men, including myself, like I look in the mirror and say, I'm healthy, I don't need a doctor, I'm not going to check. Just want everybody to go check with your physician, consult with your doctor, and just see.
You've been an athlete your entire,
so I don't,
you know what I'm saying, your entire life. If we were looking at risk categories, you could very easily say, I'm in the low risk category. I work out for, a living, and yet you're passionate about this.
Very passionate. Like I said, I'm passionate about the community. I realize that the older I get, I have to change my lifestyle a little bit. Let me go on the record and say I don't have heart failure issues. I don't have those problems. But, you know, when I felt that I wanted to be the one to lend the voice to let people know, especially African Americans, this is really serious. We got to take it seriously. We got to start, you know, consulting with our doctors.
As we get older, we have these conversations about our health a little bit more than we did when we were younger during your
a little bit more.
Are you having these conversations a little bit more?
Definitely. I'm 47, and if I didn't have a conversation with Dr. Feely, I wouldn't have known that heart failure affects African Americans community harder than it does any other group. Never knew that. And Doctor's a very intelligent woman. Throws a lot of big words. She gives it to me, I break it down for the people. For example, you want information on this, you go to shackgetsreal.com. Because when I was talking to her, she was throwing big words out, IMDb, and
Oh, Lord.
clockamine and sockamine and all that. So I'm going to be the guy to break it down for people.
If you could do one small thing, make one small change to help your heart health specifically, what would that be?
Well, I think it would be really important if you have risk factors to know what that risk is, right? So it's that checkup once a year.
I've been calling myself Superman since 17 years old, and I don't have a family physician. Never had a doctor. The only time I went to the doctor is when I had injuries, so I probably have to get one of those very soon.
Well, can you believe it? And I changed the scenery because I wanted to show you how serious I am. This tree is my heart health tree. It's red and white, and it has pink hearts and red hearts in it. And I do it, as I tell people, in honor of Go Red for Women, American Heart, in honor of my mother, Barbara Hubbard. So I just want to change my scenery a little bit. So, Tim, what can you say about this video that we just saw with Shaq? Can you please tell me?
Well, I love it. You know, so many things that he and the doctor said are just spot on. You know, they talked about high blood pressure. They talked about diabetes, just as we mentioned a few minutes ago. But I think that issue of disparities and inequities is really something. You alluded to it a little bit earlier a few minutes ago, but it's really something that has come to the forefront here in the last 12 months, as you said. Not only has COVID hit certain groups harder, African Americans in particular, but it's highlighted the fact that heart disease and other diseases also impact those folks differently as well. And so I'm excited to say the American Heart Association, even I think it was in November, our board of directors issued a presidential advisory declaring structural racism as a health threat. And we recently have devoted $230 million at the national level to fight that, to make changes in that. And so it's something, yes, we realize that that is a huge, huge issue. And there are a lot of people that are affected by it. And we want to do our best to improve that situation.
Absolutely. So, Antonia, you being a true example of real people, real change. Mm-hmm. What can you, first of all, you mentioned walking. I know a lot of seniors, a lot of older Americans, if we just took I'm working on my 10,000 steps each day, but what was that regimen? How the walking kick in to make you get started to say, hey, I'm ready to make some changes so I can live better?
Okay. The first thing that I did was I bought a treadmill, and that's where I do my walking, on my treadmill.
Right. I feel you on that one. I just bought the Total Gym. Mm-hmm. It's really special. I tell you, it's really special. But there are certain things like you can do at home. I know everything is virtual now. I mean, they have virtual yoga, they have virtual line dancing, they have virtual Zumba. But what I want to say, knowing that this is Black History Month and knowing that we are eaters, we love seasoned food, we love certain kinds of elements of entertaining and dining. How do we program our mind to make this a lifestyle change that you did so successfully? Or how did you do it?
Well, number one, I cut down on fried foods. Mm-hmm. I bake most of my meats. I bake. I don't eat beef at all. I cut beef out of my diet altogether.
Wow.
Um, and I don't use sugar.
Hmm.
So like I said, I cut down on fried foods. I bake most of my meats. And if I do have to use oil, I use olive oil, and I do not buy salt.
Hmm. Now, I'm a tea drinker. So how am I going to make that good old that peach tea or that sweet tea with no sugar? What is the result? Help
I
me.
do I do use artificial sweetener.
Okay, I'm just checking because you know it'll be spring in 23 days. I counted it down. I was so excited. So I mean, what do we do? I mean, so did you see recipes or you just were given a book? Did you work with your personal physician to this lifestyle change? How did that all tie together?
Well, like I said, I went to a cardiac rehab. I gained a
Mhm.
lot of knowledge there. And then with my doctor got me scheduled with the nutritionist at the hospital.
Mhm.
And then I got a lot of information from the American Heart Association.
Absolutely. So
Hmm.
Tim, your the resources, and I hope we can revisit this next month. I have seen somebody do a virtual CPR training.
Yeah, we do. We have videos about CPR training, and actually we encourage people now to do hands-only CPR. You don't have to worry about giving breaths. You just do the compressions, and it's heart.org/hands-only CPR, and there's it's about a 1-minute video that shows you the real 2 easy steps to hands-only CPR.
Wow. So with everything going on now, and we're in a new administration, so we're almost a month and a couple of days into the administration. We're seeing a little bit of um, flexibility in getting out and being around more people, but we still are in the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
How difficult was it to maintain your visibility during the first months of the COVID process?
Well, it was challenging for sure. Some of the events that we did, we had our Indianapolis black tie gala, the Heart Ball, in mid-May, and so that had to become a digital, event via Zoom. Even in September, I think all of us in the spring were thinking, okay, hey, by the fall we'll be back to normal. That's when we have our Heart Walk, which is a huge community event where anybody and everybody can come and just celebrate with survivors of heart disease and stroke. And but that had to become a virtual event too, where we really just asked people to go walk in their neighborhood or wherever they were and share photos with us online instead of gathering together. So it has been difficult. But at the same time, I think the American Heart Association has done a great job of really pivoting where necessary. We were a very early organization to dedicate funds specifically for research around COVID and heart disease. Because obviously, especially in the early days, we started seeing reports of people who had COVID. The more serious cases were having inflammation of the heart, or people maybe with previous history of heart disease or stroke were more at risk of serious complications. And so we early on set up 21 rapid research grants to try to do that, to try to investigate specifically those cases. And another thing we did was we set up a registry for hospitals. One thing the Heart Association that does that isn't quite as public facing that people wouldn't know about is we work very closely with hospitals on a program we call Get With the Guidelines, where we help them implement the latest science. And this wasn't really, obvious to me, but it certainly makes sense. You think about a doctor going through residency, years and years of training, but once they get in the field, they might have a little bit of continuing education credits and stuff like that, but their education, the bulk of their education could be, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And obviously science and the technology and the developments that we continually advance forward change year after year. And so our Get With the Guidelines programs works with hospitals to implement those new technologies and new strategies. And so we developed also a free registry for hospitals so that they could input data from COVID patients, you know, from the demographic type data to the treatment to the symptoms, you know, anything and everything COVID related, so that we could quickly accumulate, you know, information. What is this disease doing to people in general, certain groups of people, certain ages of people, people with certain you know, preconditions, all those types of things. So I think we had a very great response, somewhat behind the scenes, but something that we did very quickly, you know, when the pandemic set on.
Well, I will say this, and you just brought it to my attention. You know, the heart has been through a lot. Pre-COVID and during COVID. But just to know, as we're watching every day the statistics of those who are perishing, we're looking at the first responders. Our heart is reacting to all of that. And so we have to really, I'm gonna have to join Miss Wright and I don't want to be a real people, real change, because I didn't think about that. I mean, and we take it for granted. But here it is. We're looking at all the mediums. The media will not let it go, and it should not. It keeps us informed. Other things that are happening in life, and then just to know that your heart, it reacts totally. And we put so much on it. We need to, I won't say give it a break, but take better care of it. So we're going to have to revisit, and I'll be using tools and asking you for things to share through your communication about heart health. I'm really interested in finding out facilities that can offer heart scans, as well as the CPR. We definitely can pull that up. And because a lot of people are still not coming out, so to learn the CPR where you are is a great benefit. Our senior communities, our restaurants and shopping centers, we're spending money. Somebody should be on staff to know what that means. When we say we need, is there anybody expert on hand? And we should bring that to the world's attention at large. So, Miss Wright, you have 1 minute closing remark. What would you like to share? I'm just excited to know you. I'm sure we're going to touch base and see each other real soon. But you're just taking the change and say, hey, this is, now let me ask you this. You had the clogged arteries.
Yes.
Did you not have a heart attack?
No, I did not. And the doctor said I was very lucky that I didn't have a heart attack, and he was just amazed that I didn't. Wow.
Wow. Well, I think it's first, you have to take care of yourself first before you can take care of anybody. And you did the right thing. So I love that you are the American Heart Association ambassador for change, for real people, real change. You are doing a great job. And you still on this path, huh?
Yes.
That's good. Yes, that's good. And how's the weight loss been going?
It's kind of slow right now. You get to a point where you plateau, but then it'll start coming back.
I'm with you. And I know
coming back off.
I like that you mentioned the treadmill. I know I had an article, and I'm going to bring it up in some of our programming next month. There was a lady who lost close to 80 pounds in her senior building over a couple of years or a couple of months, over a year period, just walking in her senior apartment and having a tracker, a Fitbit. So I thought that was exciting. So there are many ways to get the body in motion. And as my community says, a body in motion stays in motion. So we want to keep that going. And you are one of our ambassadors. So we thank you, thank you, thank you. And Tim, what is your closing remark as you sit as Senior Director of Communications for the American Heart Association, Indianapolis?
I'd like to say two things, and really they both relate to Antonia and the things that she did. You know, number one, she had that indigestion and it didn't go away, and she went to get help, right? She went to her doctor to find out what was going on. And so the number one thing would be, you know your body better than anybody else. And if something doesn't feel right, don't hesitate to get it checked out. You know, if it's nothing, they'll tell you it's nothing and you'll be fine. You go on. But if they catch something serious, it could save your life. And then the other thing is, you know, take small steps to make those changes. Sometimes, you know, Antonia has been doing these things for 5 or 6 years, so it can sound overwhelming, like, wow, I've got to overhaul my whole diet. I've got to start exercising. one step at a time, right? If you're drinking a 12-pack of soda every 2 days, cut it back one at a time. You drink one fewer a day, you drink two fewer a day. If you're not walking 5 miles a day right now, don't worry. Start by walking around the block, because those things build. So take the small steps, just do one thing at a time.
Absolutely. And I will agree with you. And I will say this statement in a short version: don't self-diagnose. A lot of us will try to self-diagnose, and that is not the best option. So when you said, Miss Wright, that you got up and you went to the doctor, that was just a light bulb in itself. We'll try to self-diagnose, and it's just the wrong thing. A lot of our family members will say, oh, well, that happened to me. Well, each body is different. So please don't try to self-diagnose. Go see the professionals. That's what they're there for. And even during the pandemic, I will say our medical heroes, hallelujah, hallelujah. A lot of them were on staff. Everybody didn't come to the hospital had a COVID situation. They were still able to provide services to what your needs were. So I am thankful to them. And we got a special show coming up in the next month talking about applauding our medical heroes and an appreciation for them. So again, everyone, it's been a pleasure to serve you. Thank you to our co-host and guest, Antonia Wright and Mr. Tim Harms, American Heart Association, Indianapolis. And we want you to know, for more information, we're going to work with his department to have a monthly or as often as possible communication about what we can do for self-care. Because remember, self-care is not being selfish. I'm your granddaughter in the community, Clara Hubbard. It's been my pleasure to serve and work with you, and glad that you tuned in with us today. And please remember that in complete darkness, we are all the same. It is only our knowledge and wisdom that separate us. Don't let your eyes deceive you. We'll see you next time for Senior Talk with Clara Hubbard.